Watch this.
A vote on a new way to vote. It looks like opening Idaho's primary elections and going with ranked choice voting will be up to the people of Idaho this November, despite the legal efforts of our state attorney general. What he says and what those behind the initiative have to say about the latest court decision. Okay, stop me if you've heard this before. This new government program won't cost taxpayers a dime. Well, that's what we were told about Caldwell's new mounted police unit. Except it's costing Caldwellers a whole lot of dimes.
I'm glad it's going to come off, and I hope I get to the other side alive.
Spoiler alert, he walked away alive, but it wasn't on the other side. We're jumping back 50 years to revisit Evel Knievel's failed foray to fling himself across the Snake River in Twin Falls.
They deceived the public by calling it an open primary when the Supreme Court said it wasn't an open primary, but they also deceived the public when they didn't talk about the two parts of the initiative.
The claim that, volunteers who were collecting signatures somehow deceived the public, it's a baseless claim.
Oh, using his own evidence against him, Judge Patrick Miller dismissed Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador's last legal attempt to stop an open primary initiative from being on the ballot in November. It's the latest setback for Idaho's AG when it comes to his crusade against open primaries and ranked choice voting. Back in July, the Idahoans for Open Primaries group turned in 97,000 signatures to take the option of open primaries in Idaho to the people. 2 weeks after that, Secretary of State verified they collected enough names to get it on the ballot. The Attorney General filed a lawsuit with the Supreme Court to keep it off the ballot, claiming the signature gatherers made false claims about the initiative to get people to sign the petition. The Supreme Court dismissed that case, saying Labrador leapfrogging to the highest court in the state isn't how it's done. Needs to be decided in a lower district court first. Well, last week it was, less than 24 hours after hearing the case, with Judge Miller saying the evidence put forth by the Attorney General actually negates the idea the defendants made false statements to the thousands of people who signed the petition. And there's even video evidence to back that up. So, okay, Joe Paris is looking at this today. And first, a little bit of a refresher on this initiative process, Joe. It's this nonpartisan primary, to open it up, where the top four then get advanced to the general election, and then it becomes a ranked choice voting thing, correct?
Correct. And in that ranked choice format, in the second half, in the general election, the winner needs at least 50%. If someone doesn't get 50%, the lowest vote getter gets eliminated, and then you rank
them that way. Okay, so does this decision, though, make it just automatically on the ballot in November?
So for now, it would appear this would be the last hurdle that the Idahoans for Open Primaries have to clear. Okay. I'll tell you, I know that the Secretary of State's office is getting ready to print the ballot. So if there's any other changes, it would be a pretty big deal. But yes, it looks like that finally we have our answer. And I asked Luke Mayville with Idahoans for Open Primaries about this concept, this accusation that volunteers were not fully explaining the proposal for the voters. They're only talking about half of the actual changes, according to these critics. Luke tells me, though, that his team has always discussed the entire concept, but there is for sure emphasis on that open primary portion.
Sometimes, you're at a county fair or a public event, you only have 10 to 20 seconds to talk to someone about the initiative. So you do your best with the time you have. But through our website, through our materials, through the information that was always on the clipboards, we had all the information. The open primary portion of this initiative is the most significant change because the biggest problem in Idaho politics is the closed primary. So we're solving, that problem of the closed primary. So in that sense, it is open primaries. That's the core reform, which is why we're called Idahoans for Open Primaries.
But he concedes that obviously this is about two different things: the ranked choice voting aspect and the open primary, one full initiative. So now the focus shifts to the actual campaign at hand.
Always considered these lawsuits to be a sideshow because we never thought that they had any basis in the facts. We always thought that they were really a political stunt by the Attorney General to try to interfere with the election. So now that that sideshow is over, we're excited to just be able to get out into communities all across the state.
And I asked the Attorney General for reaction, and Raul Labrador wrote a statement that says, in part, "We are disappointed with the ruling. continues, saying that Idaho law is very clear. No person may make false statements to obtain signatures for an initiative. My duty is to protect the integrity of the initiative process and to defend the legal rights of all Idaho voters to receive fair and truthful information about initiatives. Goes on to say that the district court's decision is inconsistent with 2 Idaho Supreme Court decisions that say open primary means something different than the initiative says. And the open primary initiative, Brian, it will be on the ballot coming up in November. Again, though, with the court situations here, I was talking to Luke Mayville this afternoon in our Zoom conversation that we just aired. He said, this is probably the last step, but they were expecting legal challenges. You never know if we'll see another one. We know that the Supreme Court pushed this down to the district court. Who knows if another court would take it up.
What was interesting in this case, and the judge saw this, there was video evidence presented of, I believe, of the kicking off of this initiative petition back in August of 2023. Ryan Spoon is the first vice chair of the Ada County Republican Central Committee. His statements in that lawsuit basically thrown out by the judge, who said, in the court's judgment, Mr. Spoon's summary of what was reflected on the video is not accurate. And that's kind of what happened. They said that actually says the opposite of what you're saying.
And the Idahoans for Open Primaries had said that to me, that, when there's these accusations, these sworn affidavits that they had done wrong, they thought at the time there was no concern. We can see here, we understand why.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe.
You have a community like Caldwell that it's an agricultural community. It is it's a Western lifestyle.
And the Caldwell Police Department wanted to lean into that Western lifestyle by adding horses to its patrol team. We introduced you to that team 2 months ago. Caldwell PD says after a few officers rode their own horses at a few events last year, they wanted to make it a more frequent thing because they say they can see better sitting above the crowds, and horses, of course, are much more approachable with the public than just officers in uniform. And at the time we did the story, we were told, and apparently so was City Council, the horse unit was completely funded by donations. No taxpayer money needed. Well, given the go-ahead, the nonprofit Caldwell Police Mounted Unit was created last year to handle all those donated items like horses and feed and equipment. But apparently, Aspen Shumpert, now some people in Caldwell are concerned that there is some taxpayer money going to this mounted unit.
Yeah, and Brian, these concerns came up after a budget meeting in July. The Caldwell Police Mounted Unit Foundation's website explains the nonprofit is solely funded by donations and not taxpayer money. But during a budget workshop, the city's financial director noted taxpayer money was going towards the mounted horse unit itself.
Mounted unit, I was under the understanding that wasn't going to take any tax dollars.
I just know that I talked to Deputy Chief and he requested the $20,000. I will say that tax dollars are being used for it currently.
Caldwell Police Chief Rex Ingram says twice in the last year, taxpayer money was used for the unit, but it didn't go to the foundation. Just under $1,500 of the police budget was used to purchase Caldwell Police branded saddle blankets, helmets, and badges, and those items are all city property now. The city spokesperson says the Caldwell Police Mounted Unit Foundation is not allowed to buy police badges. Ingram says the police department also used money earlier this year to cover the cost to pick up the 2 drafted horses in Albuquerque, which was just over $2,000. Ingram says city approved these purchases. During budget conversations this summer, Chief Ingram says the finance department recommended that Caldwell PD budget for incidentals like those or costs the nonprofit can't cover. So police requested $20,000, which council denied, and instead improved $5,000 for the mounted unit this coming fiscal year, which starts in October.
They're essentially saying that we are misleading the public to get money funded to then place into a foundation, which is completely unequivocally false. But the actual animals, the vet, the feed, the things that cost the money are the animals, right? The actual horses themselves. That stuff is 100% founded by the foundation.
Chief Ingram says it's possible none of that $5,000 allocated for the fiscal year will be used.
Okay, so basically what you just said was that they had to, because it was official capacity, like the badges and stuff like that, they had to request money from the city.
Right.
To
it was
pay
a
for those
controlled
kind of things.
item, had to be paid for by the city.
Okay. So going forward, about $5,000?
About $5,000. That's what it's laid out for the upcoming fiscal year. That could not be touched. They could run into incidentals where they need to use that, so they have that cushion. But I know when they were creating this, it was the idea to go with the foundation so that they could rely on donations and not taxpayer money.
And keeping and feeding horses, not cheap.
Yeah,
I know
that's
that.
right.
Thanks, Aspen. Boise man was federally indicted for allegedly leading a transnational terrorist group, soliciting multiple murders of U.S. officials, among other charges. Hunter Funk has details on that indictment and more in today's 411.
An Idaho judge granted a change of venue request for Brian Kohberger today. Kohberger is accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students back in 2022. Defense attorneys suggested moving the trial about 300 miles away to Ada County, but it's up to the Idaho Supreme Court to confirm where the trial will take place. A Boise man is one of 2 people charged with soliciting hate crimes and soliciting the murder of U.S. federal, state, and local officials. 37-year-old Matthew Allison of Boise and 34-year-old Dallas Humber of California were arrested on Friday. A 15-count indictment from the U.S. Department of Justice accuses the 2 alleged white supremacists of assembling a kill list and of inciting 3 specific terror attacks, 2 successful ones in Slovakia and Turkey, and 1 unsuccessful plot in New Jersey. The indictment says the pair managed a channel on the chat app Telegram called Terrorgram. The Justice Department labels this as a transnational terrorist group and says their intention was to start a race war to bring about the collapse of the U.S. government. It also says they tried to prompt attacks on the electric grid and other critical infrastructure. If convicted, they each face a maximum of 220 years in prison.
So we both get to the track meet in Idaho. It's called the Simplot Games.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
The Pocatello Meet Cute that started the Olympic couple's journey to love has blossomed into a golden couple. Hunter Woodhall won gold at the Paralympics on Friday in the 200-meter race. Pair that with Tara Davis Woodhall's Olympic gold in the long jump, and the power couple just got more powerful. The Paralympics wrapped up last night with Team USA running away with 105 medals across 17 para sports. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Hunter Funk.
So many of you have probably heard of pyrocumulus clouds like you were just seeing there, and it's been amazing to see them the last couple of days over the foothills here in Boise. Normally we think of cumulus clouds, we think of thunderstorms, and it's because of the lifting of the air and a colder air above it. And it starts forming those clouds, those kind of cauliflower puffy type clouds and that sort of thing. Either a front does that to force the air up, or it's just basically daytime heating that rises as well. But in this case, it's the fire that has all of the heat, and around that, the air rises and you have the cumulus or the pyrocumulus. So yeah, we know there's smoke because of smoke in the area, but also the very fact that we see those clouds over the foothills. Now, as you look here over southwestern Idaho, okay, we've got what would appear to be clear conditions at this particular point. As we move out here to the northwest, it's dry for the entire northwest. Not unusual for this time of year. But we have a frontal system right here, a pretty good sized one, and it's going to be coming in directly from the northwest. That is cooler temperatures that's going to be coming our way. And as the arrow forces that down into over the northwest, that's going to be producing some very cool conditions. And that's why we have a first alert weather day, as you can see, into Wednesday as well as Thursday, because you're going to be seeing some cooler temperatures, lows down around 51 on Thursday, which might even be downright chilly. Also on some of the burn scars, we're watching for flash flooding in some of those spots. So could be a situation. So that's the first alert weather. After that, it dries up, temperature comes up in the lower 80s. It looks like we're kind of getting out of those 90s to near 100 degrees.
There's no use practicing something you can't miss. I mean, you know, it's a one-shot deal. I'm not coming back for any late run on the late show.
Okay, but how about a This Day in History detail on the 208, huh? You know, in hindsight, maybe they should have practiced that jump across the Snake River Canyon 50 years ago. He owns the Guinness record for most broken bones in a lifetime with 433, 35 of them at once. He's credited with blazing the trail of extreme sports. In fact, he was once so popular, he was one of the main attractions for ABC's Wide World of Sports in its heyday. One of those events just crossed into golden status. 50 years ago, yesterday, Robert Craig Knievel, you may know him better as Evel Knievel, he tried to jump the Snake River Canyon in Twin Falls. While strapped into a rocket he dubbed the Sky Cycle X2. As you might know, it didn't go so well. Today, the ramp from where the launch took place, it still stands as a memory of the event which brought the world to Twin Falls. The name Evel Knievel first became a household one on the last day of 1967 when he tried to jump the fountain at Caesar's Palace on a motorcycle. Clearing the fountain, no problem. The landing, not so much. Knievel crushed his pelvis, snapped several ribs, and spent nearly a month in the hospital. But the name Evel would forever achieve superstar status, if not sacred, because of something he would try nearly a decade later.
The last of the gladiators and the greatest daredevil of the 20th century.
The story goes, Evel had the big idea of jumping the Grand Canyon, but he was denied permission by the Department of the Interior. So the next option? The Snake River. It crossed his mind while flying over it in 1971. So Evel leased 300 acres east of Twin Falls and began preparing, which included a promotional stop in 1972 with one of his SkyCycle steam-powered rockets.
It'll be going 200 miles an hour by the time it gets to the ramp from right here.
And how fast will you be going at your ultimate speed?
Well, I hope 300. Have to make 300 to get there. If we don't make 300, I will be in a lot of trouble.
You gonna be ready by next June, July?
I'll definitely jump at the 4th of July weekend next year.
Except he didn't. A few failed test runs pushed the stunt into September of 1974. By that time, Evel was left with just one SkyCycle and one big question.
Why am I doing it? That's an impossible question to answer. There are three mysteries to life. That's where we came from, why we do what we do, and where we're going to go. You don't know the answer to any of those three, neither do I. I'm going to jump to get the other side, and I don't want to drive across that damn bridge.
Months earlier, Evel was confident in his mode of transport and the rocket scientists who built it.
Really, I've got the best people in the world working on the thing for me, and like I stated earlier, if they can get Shepard and Glenn around the world and Armstrong to the moon, they can get me across this little rinky-dinky Snake River Canyon. That's the way I look at it.
Those words, though, would prove ominous for the stuntman. By Sunday, September 8th, 1974, the hype of what could be had reached a height never seen before in Twin Falls. More than 10,000 made their way to the rim of the Snake River Canyon to see history firsthand.
There is now just 1 minute to go.
Could Knievel be the first to clear the 1,765 feet in his SkyCycle? To catch it, all angles were covered by ABC's Wide World of Sports.
10. Now start your camera.
And simulcast in movie theaters across the country.
4, 3, 2, 1.
However, the endeavor was ruined as soon as the rocket left the ramp by a premature parachute.
Come on! Okay, Evel, stay with the bird, stay with the bird. It looks like you're going to go into the canyon.
The early chute and the strong headwind pushed the X2 back and nose first toward the Snake River.
You cannot see it now. There she goes, beneath the rim of the canyon.
The calmness of the cycle's 1,000-foot descent into the canyon was contradicted by the chaos above it.
The family, and we're racing around to them now, is hysterical and in shock, crying. They think Evel may be dead or maybe drowning in the river.
He wasn't. The SkyCycle landed 10 feet from the water, where crews were able to pull him to safety.
Evel Knievel is standing in the boat and waving. He is alive and well.
He's okay.
20 minutes later, Evel Knievel returned to the launch site.
He's walking on his own. Looks like he has a bloody nose. He's bleeding from the eyes a little bit.
Wondering what went wrong.
It went sideways. It turned. Now, I don't know what happened down here, but Ron and Bob both told me if I saw the canyon wall and not the sky, for Christ's sake, to let it go. And
the SkyCycle X2 and Evel's dream jump, that wasn't the only thing left up in the air that Sunday afternoon.
Are you going to try it again?
Well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I sat in it and gave it my best, and I don't know what to tell you.
September 8th, 1974 was also the day President Gerald Ford pardoned former President Richard Nixon for his federal crimes he, quote, committed or may have committed or taken part in while in office. The next day, the first ever pardoning of a resigned president shared front page status in the Twin Falls Times-News and many other papers around the country. Evel Knievel never did try to jump the Snake River Canyon. He was done jumping by 1980. But in September of 2016, stuntman Eddie Braun became the first person to clear the canyon in a rocket cycle built by the son of the man who built Evel's original rocket cycle. All right, welcome back. Let's get to your comments from today's show. Several of them based on the open primaries initiative that is going to be on the November ballot. But let's start with this one on the Horse Patrol unit out in Caldwell. I don't see why it matters if the Horse Patrol officers come with a little bit from the city. I mean, they are officers. What's the difference of them being on a horse or in a car or walking? They have to have the upkeep on the cars. All that stuff's kind of included, but that's the thing, is that we were told it wasn't going to take any taxpayer money to add something new to the police force, and yet here it is, at least $5,000 more. Could be more at some point. Why do we have primary voting? I'm going to couple this one with the next one that says Luke Mayville is a liberal con man. No registered voter in Idaho is denied the right to vote in the general election. If you want to vote in a primary, then pick a party, says Frank in Eagle. And that's true. Back in 2011, they sued to close the primaries. 2012 was when we first had to close primaries. The Republicans chose to close theirs. Democrats did not, and it's been closed ever since. But the complaint these last couple of years is, why are all these people joining the Republican Party? Well, so they could have a choice in the Republican primary, because being such a red-dominated state, they know that there's a lot of choice being made in the primary. And by the time it gets to the general election, those choices are pretty much locked up. So that's kind of how that works and kind of the way it is right now. When an elective government fears the will of the people, they no longer serve the people. That put them there, says Mike in Eagle. I was there as a 13-year-old boy living in Twin Falls when Evil's rocket failed. The chaotic aftermath was crazy. Yep, they looted a beer truck. Yep, there was a burned car, and there were hippies everywhere. It was awesome. See you tomorrow.